Okay, hi everybody. I am Alessandro Lonero from Performance Lab, and welcome everybody to the second episode to this Performance Quest. I'm very happy to be here, of course, with Francesco Cuzzolin, and that everybody knows him, and with our guest of today, Daniel Shapiro. Daniel Shapiro, he's a very important. It's a very important host and guest. And actually, at the moment, is the head of strength conditioning coach of LA Clippers, but at the same time is the president of the NBA Strength and Conditioning Coaches. So we are very honored to be here with you, Daniel. If you want to introduce yourself, if you want to say something with us, hello and welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, Alessandro, and Kutso as well. Obviously, me and Kutso go back a long ways, and from his time in the NBA. And um, no, I'm excited to talk shop about basketball strength and conditioning. Been doing this a long time. Like you said, I knew Kutso back when I was with the Sacramento Kings. I was there for 8 years. And then before that, I was also with the Seattle Supersonics as an assistant for 7 years, and then coached. I went NBA, college, NBA. So in between my three NBA stints, I had two colleges, one at University of Dayton and one in my hometown of Seattle at the University of Washington for 6 years college. So you're looking at about 24 years of basketball strength and conditioning from intern, assistant, all the way up, and had the opportunity to work with a lot of great people, learn and continue learning, and always fun to share and talk with other colleagues like yourselves.
Well, amazing.
Hi, Daniel. I'm very happy to having you with us tonight. When you're talking about your experience, it looks like if your experience age is like 75 years old or something like that, but your biological age is like 25. I know just
Right.
you hit Emilio that every year look younger and cheating. I don't know on your age, because when you're speaking about your experience, you look very, very old. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I shaved
Uh,
today. I usually have my beard. I shaved, and I started I started at the age of 19, so I started very young.
Good for you. Good for you. Okay, I know Daniel from long, and what I like of Daniel, not just because you are here, because very professional, but he got always a smile on his face. He's very positive person. He's very optimistic, and I believe this is also a secret of working for many, many years in a professional sports environment, because it's really stressful for sure. Managing players, and in this period, I think is also more difficult than in the past. So let's start talking about your experience in the bubble after a long period of isolation for the players during the lockdown. You have prepared the team to play the postseason. So again, a different kind, but still isolation. So what kind of difficulties have you crossed, like a strength conditioning coach? And how did you manage training and recovery during the most important period of the season?
Well, you said it. It was the most important time of the season because it's the most important part of the season. The players understood that, so it was an opportunity for us to kind of capitalize on all the gains we made, not just from the regular season and from the break, but we were really, there's a lot of people that nobody would say excited to get into a bubble in isolation. So you really had to be focused on what you were there to do. We really were. So because we were really motivated, you didn't have to do as much of it. But the great thing about it is, you stayed on a hotel floor. Your whole team was there, so you had a lot of access. So the other thing the NBA did a really good job of is there's always a schedule. There's always doing something. Like you're practicing, we were always meeting. We had our team meals, so you weren't really locked up in a room all the time unless you chose to be. Our personal hotel had, they had, pools, some outdoor activities. You can go visit your other people. They had the players had like a players lounge where they can play cards and hang out, without, guys like us in the way. But um, it really, really was a time of focus and to try to just come and do what we came to do. And as far as from now our standpoint on the performance and the strength and conditioning side, we had our own it was interesting because as my job with the association, I worked with the NBA to build 7 weight rooms and the 7 practice courts on the bubble. But because we're dealing with the virus, it's not accessible all the time. You only have your set time, your 3 hours of practice and treatment and lifting. But you know, it was hard because you have some guys that lift at night, some guys in the morning. It just things just change so much. So we ended up renting 2 rooms, took all the furniture out, and we took a truck and shipped our weight room to Orlando into 2 rooms. So now we had 2 rooms that we had full access, but because of the COVID, you can only have 1 coach and 1 player in at a time. So it was more like the details, the semantics of scheduling and how can we make sure we get it. But because of that, you're always busy. From my standpoint as a strength conditioning coach, we felt like we were always doing something because you couldn't do the only time you can really do a team lift or a big group lift would have been during your practice allotted time at the gym. But it was also important we made sure the guys got a lot of rest. So it was you didn't have the travel, but the schedules, we had so many games of 9:30 p.m. starts. So we're getting home at 1, they're up till 4. So the next day, as a strength coach, is it good for me to train a guy with 6 hours of sleep, going to bed at 4? You try to ride that line of I don't want to. We want to keep them fresh, but at the same time, give them the training they need to be prepared for the demands on the court. So, from that standpoint, there's a lot of juggling around with individual guys.
It reminds me my experience at the Olympics.
Yes.
It wasn't the bubble, but living in the Olympics village, crazy schedule, a lot of games, a lot of journalists, also a lot of media, a lot of, players that are talking between them, not all the teams, but we were living in a small apartment, the whole team together. But so living 24/7, the same game time, the same. So we were living the excitement of the moment, but also a kind of stress for the schedule, a kind of stress for practicing, in such a different way. So very interesting. So I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard that the next NBA season we start in December. So what are your players doing in this transition period?
So right now we don't know that yet. So right now there's negotiations and talks you hear between a possible December 22nd first game or a possible mid-January. So we don't know the answer yet. We probably won't know for next 1 to 2 weeks, they're saying, or next week to 10 days. But if the money and situation is correct, then I'm preparing now. Like literally in the last 5 days, I went from preparing for a late January to early February start. My periodization was all planned. Now, December training camp, out the door goes periodization. Excuse my language, but fuck the periodization I had. Now, excuse me on this, but now we got to be smart about what do they need strength wise? What do they need? They need body wise. What do they need functional movement wise? So now I have a progressive, a load progression overload, overload progression, but I'm also making sure we're getting, their all their mobility work. I mean, it's really like a condensed program now for them.
A friend of mine used to say that the best periodization is the one that I'm preparing tomorrow. So
tomorrow,
is the one that taking consideration of all the variables that usually you have to consider. Because if you are thinking too much before, knowing all the picture,
right,
it has no sense at all. So that's the main thing. And probably, in my opinion, my humble opinion, I think that working in a specific and individualized way is probably the best periodization, because it's true, you got a team, but you have also individuals with completely different needs. So once again, how you prioritize, the planning from individuals to the team.
Correct. And that's what you're dealing with right now is we just got out of our season, 5 weeks ago, and
Yeah.
we're now getting them through their assessments. So their movement assessments and mobility and strength. So now we want to try to address the needs, the big ticket items as well as we can right now. And hopefully we'll find out in the next week to 10 days, really when we start, and then we'll go from there.
Interesting. So another very important, question that many European coaches usually like to make is a comparison from the NBA organization and the European organization. So in the last years, there are many NBA teams that start talking about performance department. They try to make also consistent investment in people, in human resources, or in technology. But my question is, this kind of investment, in your opinion, also, the business very well, being president of the NBA Strength&Conditioning Association. So this investment has brought in a day-by-day team management some added value. What do you think about this new trend of having a strong, consistent performance department behind your back?
So you bring a very good point, because through the years that from back when you and I knew each other, like, this will kind of date me, but if I go back to when I started with the Sonics, there were no assistant strength coaches. There were no interns. We created the position. And then every team, Dwight Daub, who is my mentor, you remember Dwight very well.
From OKC.
From OKC into Seattle. I was his
Seattle.
assistant for 7 years, but the strength coaches would make fun of him because, like, you needed a full-time intern. Like, there's only 15 guys. So now, you have enough strength coaches for one every 5-6 guys. It's 100% great because what you're going to have, you have more individual attention. You have more smart people together learning from one another. But with that comes the need to better communicate and understanding roles and understanding where people fit in, because you have a lot of hands in the pot now. You definitely do. The staffs have grown, but they've grown stronger. So it's I think this high performance model is great because, you obviously have now full-time dietitians, you got sports psychologists, you got sports scientists, you have biomechanists, you have physical therapists, you got athletic trainers, you got strength coach, you got so many as part of the big team. So it's really from my experience and where I've kind of grown, I'm learning more now than I did earlier on, because back then you were kind of more like you were just strength and conditioning. Now you're still just strength and conditioning, but you're working amongst a team. So you're learning so much more I've learned more about, load management. I'm learning more about movement, just human movement as opposed to resistance training. So it's definitely something that it takes the right manager and the right leader to be able to handle all these, because all these people at the NBA, they're considered some of the best in their business, right? So you got a lot of people who feel very confident in what they know and what they bring. So you got to make sure you're able to manage not just what people's strengths and weaknesses, but you got to be able to manage personalities as well. So it's something that is usually done very well, and we're fortunate here because we have a big. Our staff's grown quite a bit in my 3 years here, and I just introduce you to Todd Wright again. And Todd, Todd's our vice president, and Todd was an assistant coach, head of performance with the Philadelphia 76ers for 4 years before he came here. And he has a very strong background in 3D training, Gary Gray, and strength and conditioning, and where I might be a little bit more of a traditional strength coach from my past. And our blending of philosophies has been, a lot of continual learning, but at the same time, we have so many tools now in our toolbox to address the individual needs of our players.
No, I really believe in this new, let's say, vision, of taking care about performance in a multidisciplinary way, But like you say, you're bringing your strong side and you're learning from the others,
Yep.
It's just one criticism, in my opinion. You have to organize this knowledge and these personalities, because many professionals think that what they know is the best. What they know is the main thing to do, So you got to create the priorities. You got to understand what is worth, what is not worth, what you can do now, what you cannot do now because it's not time to do it, you know?
The word is humility. You have to have humility. You got to be able to understand that maybe what you're used to doing is not the best thing right now.
Yeah.
And another person's strategy might be better.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not always it's not just question of having a lot of persons, but having the right person in your organization. That's the big challenge. So changing completely scenario and moving from I'm doing the last 5, 6 years. You saw me the Chicago Combine a couple of years ago. So in terms of technology, which is the technology that has changed the quality of your working, your personal working in the last years? If it exists, I mean, if it does exist, a technology that make you feel completely. I saw that you are wearing an Aura ring. Just an example, you know.
I am. Yes, there you go. That's a great example.
Listen.
So you have one too.
Okay, it's just a tool. We can discuss about this, but generally speaking, technology that in the last, I don't know, 5 years is a huge amount of time for technology, no?
It is.
Has changed your strength conditioning job in a more, let's say, valuable way.
Yes, technology is interesting because when you deal with technology, you got different types, right? You got wearables. The hardest thing with wearables, you need people to be able to do what they got to put it on. More times than not, pro athletes do not like to wear wearables, like a ring. This ring is great, but at the same time, guys don't like to shoot with it, lift with it. They take it off. But we just talked to a sleep expert the other day, but the HRV information we get out here, the HRV and the sleep information on the Aura is so good compared to some of the other technologies out there.
I agree.
So we would like them to maybe wear it at night, but then they got to be able to share the technology. So wearables is one thing, but we use we have Kinexon you're familiar with Kinexon. Kinexon's a really good tool because even though they do have to wear it, you can get some really, really good detailed information when it comes down to not just speeds and efforts, but you can really get really detailed on where they're going on the court because it's like a mapping. It's not just a number. It's a visual tool as well. Now, where I'm still waiting for the perfect one for me in my world. My world, I want someone that does like Zephyr. So I used to use Zephyr back was, it would do loads. It would do it would do physiological and mechanical load because I like to see their physiological response. So I want to see their heart rate response. I want to know, I think some of the technologies that are used in the NBA only really give half of the picture because we can know the work they're doing, but if we don't know the stress it's putting on the player, then we don't really know the full picture. Like we have we have ideas of, what their top speeds are. So we figure, the more their top speeds, we know that it's obviously fatiguing them more, but we don't see that fitness curve as much unless they have a heart rate strap at the same time. So that's my little soapbox on my soapbox on that. But I think Kinexon's a great one. I think polar heart rate monitors is a great one too. I think finding the right one that if there could be one chip that has both of them, that would be perfect. But the NBA also has second spectrum, which is great because we got the cameras and all the cameras and all the game and all the game arenas. So we're able to see without them wearing anything their speeds, intensities, how high they jump, and everything like that now. So the technology is good to get feedback after the fact. In real time, you were not able to use real time during games. And then real time, you're not able to do it during games. And during practice, it's optional. So as far as from that standpoint, from the basketball side, it's a little limited. But as far as performance, we use like GymAware. We use GymAware, which is a
I know him very well.
It's velocity-based training, so we're able to self-regulate some of the guys and kind of get understanding of where they are. We can kind of make a little more specific our training if we want to look more for strength or strength speed or speed strength, absolute strength, with certain lifts. So we've used that as a technology. obviously, as far as doing assessments, we use all kinds of different cameras and force plates to be able to see any type of asymmetries in camera work. But I'm still looking. I'm waiting for the perfect one, which is going to be something that they don't have to wear, that we can get their heart rate and all their physical, they're all mechanical,
Yeah.
but it just doesn't exist yet that I know of.
There are many companies in the world, so they are all specialized in something specific. So
Correct.
we are looking something ideal, but I catch your point. I mean, technology in different fields, on the floor, in the weights room, on the lifestyle of the players, because now we are able to have a little bit more information about what's happening when players are not with us. HRV, sleeping hygiene, whatever. Any information could be useful if you have, a full picture where you can control all this information to provide the better options, the better advices, to your players, to your coaching staff. So thinking.
Correct, but
Go ahead.
but a lot of times, the athlete might not want to share those, and that's the other thing, is they got to be able to willingness to wear it and to share it, because nowadays with contracts, which I'm not involved in, but hey, some players might have to play so many games to get a bonus. Well, what if the feedback says they need rest? They're gonna be like, no, you're playing me, because you know what I mean. There's a lot of there can be potential conflict.
I know what you mean, because it's my job now. I'm in the same situation, that sometimes players come to me and they don't want to have too many information, or they don't want to provide too many information to the coaches. So let's say, why you are doing all these assessment, all this testing? I know my body. I'm trying to educate them. If you got information, how to use it or don't use it. But if you have no information, you're like a blind driving a car in a foggy day. I mean, has no sense at all what you're doing. So can we play with the numbers? Can we play with information? So it's a tricky point, and I'm still believe that we are coaches, so we have to spend time to educate our players, not just to train our players. So that's a big challenge for us. So
Steve,
next,
you said it. You said it. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please continue.
No. I was just switching the topic, because you are in a situation. You are president of the NBA Strength&Conditioning Association. So, which are your ingredients to be a successful coach? Because this is a very important question for me.
That is a good question. I'll tell you. When you talk about the Strength Coach Association, so I am president, but I was the first president years ago in 2008 when we came together. There was 4 of us that started it: myself, Sean Wendell, Keith D'Amelio, who you obviously know, and then Mike Curtis. Mike Curtis. So us 4 started it, and it was a great way to help us, like you talked about, for us to communicate with one another, for us to be able to help each other out with everything from how we get treated, be able to have a workout space when we play each other in arenas, to contract negotiations, to even how we supply our athletes with, we want to be able to provide our athletes with the best technology and education out there. So we do a lot of continuing education together as well. And so from that standpoint, within it's like it's a fraternity, right? It's a group of us to help each other grow as a strength coach professional. But it's also turned out to be an opportunity for others to come and learn from us, and it's a network for others. So when we talk about what it takes to be a great strength coach, from the association, we try to provide opportunities for other strength coaches and for other people to come learn with us, whether it be learning technologies, sharing our programming and ideas, but of course not all the secret sauce, but just enough that you can share. It's interesting. I think, for me, if I had to answer personally, the biggest thing that I find as far as, what's going to make somebody a great strength coach, and like how can the association help, is we talk about the word humility and humbleness, and being able to step off your high horse and understand and learn. I'll tell you this, I hate to go back to me, but when I started with the Seattle Supersonics in '96, I worked for them 7 years and I didn't get paid $1 until my third or fourth year. Matter of fact, Kutso, I was going to school to get school credit. I was already taking a full load. So for me to volunteer, I had to get credit. I was already taking a full load, so I had to pay to
Wow.
work for the Sonics. So I had to get a school credit. I already had a full load, so I had to pay to get it. So, but I would never think twice about it. And money was never the driving force to why we do what we do. And for the young people out there, when it comes to getting into the field and getting motivated, those are the things that people have to understand is volunteering, understanding that, we're in this because we actually believe in what we get out of it. And it's not about money. It's about it's about the relationships, but it's about the increased performance and seeing and being a part of something very big. And I don't know if that answered your question, but that was a really big one for me. Is like when I go speak and talk to other young up and coming strength and conditioning coaches, the number one question I always get is, how much money do you make?
Yeah,
And
it's
I'm like, that's the worst question to ask.
yeah. I cannot be more agree with you about that, because it's something that I try to teach to my students.
Yeah.
Because it's so important that you have this humble approach to share knowledge, to, let's say, to improve yourself. If you are working the performance world, you got to take care about your first performance, your personal performance. So
Correct.
I try to be a better person, to be a better coach. So it's a life commitment. It's not just a professional commitment. This is the second option. It's never the first option. So when I meet coaches that they are jealous about their knowledge, say, what? There are thousands, millions of people that are doing your job and better than you. So you're jealous because probably you don't believe that your knowledge is good enough. I never found, a good coach with a good knowledge being scary of sharing his experience. I'm talking about the best coaches I've met in my life. They were really humble person. They were ready to share. They were professionally ethic. So if your idea, your exercise, I mention you. If you are, if I got something from this discussion, I says, look, I was talking with Daniel and he taught me this on that. You gotta be, let's say, ethically correct with other people. But I'm mentioning the best person. If you don't want to share, if you're jealous, if you think that your exercises are enough to improve your player's performance, if you think you are the smartest person in the room, probably you are in the wrong room. So this is my feeling. This is the message. Sometimes I know that I'm raw. I'm going straight to the point. But if you don't wanna, it's better to be shy now, and asking before than being, showing your big ego and after crashing yourself, because life is gonna teach you how it works. That's right. I'm
you got it. You know it. I mean, you've been in this field a long time, Cuzo, and you know it. And you've had the opportunity to do it in different cultures in different parts of the world. So you've seen that.
So about different cultures. Last question, because I know that for you is a long, long day, and you've been so kind to share with us this time, and I'm so happy to have this chance to talk with you. So tell me, differences between European and American school players in the NBA, like athletes, like players, some secrets behind the scene if you got.
Well, I've been fortunate enough, as you know, because I've had I've had international players. I've had the opportunity to go internationally to train some of these players, like I had Gallo, we had Boban Marjanovic, we had Milos Teodosic, just in my time here. And it's interesting, like, I hate to say it, but, there's always a kind of an old expression in the NBA that the Europeans were soft. They always said that they were soft. Now, you know what? I was like, that's an assumption, because our game was much more physical here. And I think we were a little bit more advanced in sports performance and weightlifting and this and that at the time. But in my experience that I've noticed with on the performance level, the biggest thing is more the the facilities and the opportunities, like when I spent some time in Serbia and some in Italy,
Mhm.
the facilities are not like they are here in the States, and the budgets are probably not like, I'm sure there's great. I'm sure you probably know the top Italian gyms there are, but in your top Italian gym probably is as great as it maybe as top as an American one, or maybe not. But we just have so many more. They're just so few and far between
Yeah,
in
for
some
sure.
of the European countries. So with that comes a challenge, because sometimes you just don't have the as much of the technology opportunity overseas, or you might not have also as much of the education and with the technology, the education, and the opportunity, because there might not be a market for it as much out there. I know when my family's in South America, I couldn't make a living down there being a performance coach. So they just don't have the market for it.
Mhm.
So um, from that standpoint, I think the players are still tough. I don't think they're all soft. I think not to sound bad saying that. I think it's there's the culture comes into play too, like how they eat, how they rest, the league itself, how many games, how they practice. Like I know European, you can say they're soft, but man, you guys practice twice a day a lot of times. We don't do that here in the States.
Yeah, I know. But in my opinion, my experience, we are in Europe. We are spending a lot of time on building and creating players. In the States, what I've seen, having this college experience that's not common in Europe, for example,
That's
you
a big
spend a lot of time more to build athletes.
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so physical preparation is it's a must at the high school. In Europe,
Yes.
doesn't happen.
Doesn't
If
happen.
you're not so lucky to be in a youth program with some professional coaches, I mean, you don't spend a lot of time, to prepare your body to be a basketball player.
You said
So
it. You
the
said it.
no,
No, you
no,
said it. No. At high school, we have high schools here. I was just talking to a high school coach the other day. What he's having their high school players do now is is unbelievable. Like I just the facilities and the opportunities and the resources they have for kids at a younger age here is so, because there's so much money in the pros. Every kid wants to be a pro, so every kid wants to get a scholarship. So they
yeah,
just start so young,
yeah,
which then comes the overuse injuries. Now you see the itises, the tendonitises, the bursite.
absolutely.
You see, it comes with it. So
So
that's
they start when they are 14, 15 years old. So before coming to a pre-draft combine, for example, they got
right.
4, 5 years of hard professional work in their body. In
Yes,
Europe, doesn't happen.
correct.
If you're lucky, it could be a couple of years, 3 years.
Yeah.
So I've seen so many players, moving from Europe to NBA and physically changed in 2, 3 years
Yeah.
because they have to. If they want to survive in NBA with this frequency of games,
Yep.
regular season,
Yep.
82 in 6 months, you got to be physically ready, not just technically ready. It's not
Right.
enough. You cannot perform with consistency in NBA if you're
Yep.
not physically ready. It's a must.
Yep.
Probably could happen during the 70s. It was another basketball, other bodies, other, intensity of the game. But right now, it's almost impossible. So,
Almost impossible.
okay.
Um,
So,
It's it's crazy, but it's not changing. It's not changing as long as the the games are the way they are. In college, we call it training age. That's the word is
mhm.
in college. In the NBA now, you might get a kid that's been in college 1 year or 4 years, and you're going to train them differently according. But most times now, when you get a kid in the NBA, they've got a training age where they've been training so many years, like you said. So you're dealing with young kids, but with men bodies.
And this is something we are trying to change Europe, like first of all, mentality of management, mentality of owners, game owners, federations, because if you want to compare, if you want to be competitive, worldwide, we gotta change this kind of gap
The
between
gap, yeah.
our basketball school and the American pro school that is completely at another level.
Yeah.
So, Alessandro, if you want to close, I don't want to steal too much time to Daniel. We can talk the whole night for me and the whole day for him. But I think for this podcast is enough. I don't know if you want to make a question to Daniel.
Yeah, I would just like to make you a question, if I can steal you just few minutes before greeting, and turn back to the technology subject we've talked a few minutes ago. I don't think that Francesco is agreeing with this point of view, but me too. But at the same time, I want just to try to see the other side of the coin. We talk about data, we talk about technologies, we talk about collecting data. It's the big data period,
Analytics.
But at the same time, I want to ask you if you have the possibility to collect, because you have budget, you have numbers, you have everything to collect a big number of data. But at the same time, do you think you could, in this way, lose the, we would become more data analysts than strength conditioning coach. We can, in a way, just stop seeing the field and losing the ability to watch the athlete.
Well, let me tell you, I'm going to answer that with one really big answer. We have a staff that analyzes that. We have
because of that.
We have our own analytics department that will do that even for us. So, because at the end of the day, I need to be out there coaching the guys. I don't have time. Like, you ever heard there's a saying, paralysis but through analysis? Like, you just sit there and analyze, or you're just paralyzed. You just can't. So for us, we want to take a few key metrics that we want to follow, whatever that might be for the person, and go with that. There's so much analytics that come in. I mean, now it's even watching video and seeing the positions they're in and how do they move on the floor? Are they standing up? Are they sitting down? What percentage? I mean, there's so much analytics that goes in, but they do a good job. They know our job is performance. So the analytics department will work with, the basketball minds and say, we got to, they'll notice that this guy's not doing, let's say he's standing upright 48% of the time when he's in the key during, you can break it down however you want. Well, they'll come to us and be like, hey, we got to improve this, and we'll see the film. So, we see the games, but we're not analytics. Like, I'm not an analyst. We have people who would do that for us, which is great because they're very busy, and we'll use that. But like something like Gym Aware, we have instant feedback. So from there, I don't need to really go back, in between sets and go study much. I know that he did or did not hit the speed I want to go. I can either adjust the speed or adjust the weight, and we go to the next set.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for your time. You're always, a very great person to stay in touch and to share ideas. And you're a very humble person. So I love this time, and I wish you all the best for the upcoming season. And,
whenever it is.
Won't be easy for all of us, to work in professional sports. I've seen your assistant walking around with a mask and training such a difficult situation. But we are a sport person, so we know what does it mean to sacrifice ourselves and to challenge ourselves. So hopefully, it's just a question of few months, and we're gonna have our life back. So that's my greeting. That's what I really believe, and this is what I want to share with you from my heart.
Man, well, I do appreciate you, Kuz. So it's an honor to be on here with you guys. I hope we're all back. Everybody stay healthy, and hopefully, and sooner than later, we're all back to regular lives again, and we have fans, and we can not have to wear masks around everybody, and just more important.
If we can hug each other like
we can hug each other. If I see you now, I'll hug you anyway, Kuz. So I trust you. I'm going to hug you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you very much, Daniel.
Thank you, Alessandro.
Wish you a good night from me and from all the Performance Lab staff.
Thank you.
See you on the next episode.
See you in the next episode. Bye. Be well.